This is a Ben Frank Connection presentation.
What is going on, everybody? We are back for another episode of the ABJ Podcast. There I am, episode 120 with Gabriel Hodder of Primal Fear. Very excited for this one. I'll be bringing him in momentarily, but first, let's get some of the housekeeping done first. Thank you once again if you're hanging out, tuning in, partying here with us on the ABJ Podcast. Super proud to announce we are now a monetized partner. I don't know exactly how they say it on the YouTube side of things, but we are a partner channel here over on YouTube, and I'm very, very proud and honored that we finally hit those accomplishments. So everyone who's been rocking with me, whether it be watching Raw, Dynamite, AEW, NWA, whatever wrestling we cover, I'm very proud that you guys have been rocking with me and going from there. And the people who have recently joined the membership, I want to give you guys your plugs here right away. So our tag team champions, James and Lily, thank you so much. Our mid-card champions, James, CJ, DM, Andrea, Adam, Inspector Todd, BR, Steven Chambers, Devin the Tribal Chief, Austin Blackwell, and I'm very sorry. I'm sure you'll let me slide here at least till the end of this month. But our new world champion tier member, Freak Maniac, upgraded from mid-card champion to our first ever. They were our first ever donation, our first ever membership, our first ever gift. Or not donation. I'm getting the side eye in the back. Lily was the first donation, but first world champ now. So Freak Maniac, thank you for that support and keeping this channel alive. If you're listening later on the audio side of things, make sure you hit us with that 5-star review. If you're watching this live on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, or X, thank you guys so much. Live chat is open, so keep your comments in there, and let's if you have any questions you have for Gabriel, please put them in there. Links below for not only all things ABJ, but my guests and the trio that they are involved in. I don't know if you heard of them. They're called Primal Fear. They're kind of taking over the entire Northeast coast. We'll talk all about it. But without further ado, let's bring in my guest, Gabriel Hodder. What's going on, bud?
What's up, man? Thank you for having me.
Thank you for doing this. I want to put myself over real quick. This is an interview of one part of a 3 interview I've wanted for quite some time. I don't really go out and put myself over as a podcaster when I go to shows, because I'm more or less there for the business side and not so much to, hey, would you do my podcast? Like, I actually have anxiety doing that.
Yeah.
I put you on someone else's podcast before my own. You did a fantastic job, and
I'm very thankful for you setting that up, man. James is an awesome guy, and just to let the listeners know what we're talking about, besides wrestling, I'm also involved in a charity foundation. And Anthony got me involved with another podcast, which was all about like recovery and people in recovery. And I went on, I did the podcast. He did the podcast with the charity's other co-founder, who is my mom. And we actually now, as a charity, sponsor that podcast. And actually, you set
awesome
up, so I was all
James is a really good dude. So he used to live here in Pennsylvania, and then he moved to the UK.
Yeah,
so when I went over there,
he used to backyard wrestle with Tony Deppen.
Yeah.
That was like what we were like after like we filmed the podcast. He was just like, like I used to wrestle, and I was like, oh really? He was like, yeah, like with some people like you might know, and I was like, yeah. He was like, yeah, like I used to backyard wrestle with Tony Deppen, and I was like, oh dude, I know him. I was like, he was like in Ring of Honor when I was in Ring of Honor. Like that's crazy.
Yeah.
That was really cool.
James is a good dude. He turned from like a PA School County coal hole boy to like Will Ospreay. Now I go over and I visit him. He's like, "What's up, bro? How you doing?" I'm like,
"That's funny you say that, because like when you first set me up with him, I listened to a couple of his things and I was like, oh, like this guy has like an accent." And so I asked him like right before we started, I was like, "Yo, man, like you're always wearing an Eagles hoodie. Like, do you like them?" He's like, "Oh yeah, I'm from Pennsylvania." And I was like, "Wait, what?" Like,
yeah.
So I guess it's just from living over there. He just picked it up. I think that's pretty cool.
So when I went over for All In, we went over to All In, and when we got there, he's like, "Yo, meet me in London. go to this address, and I pull up to this address, and it's an abandoned subway tunnel. You can't drive through it, and you walk in, and it's just people spray painting the walls. It smells like paint. There's people dancing and break dancing and just doing art, and I'm like, are we gonna get killed in here? Like, what is like? It was yeah, it was terrifying. And we walk through, and halfway through the tunnel is a bar. It's in an abandoned subway tunnel, a bar, and it's a Philadelphia themed sports bar. The whole bar is Eagles, Flyers, you name it. It's a PA bar in a tunnel in London.
Well, that's where, you know, the
like, yo, it was like we were back in PA, but in London. It was one of the best cheesesteaks I've ever had, not in the city of Philadelphia. Yeah.
That's really cool.
It was so cool. Yeah. But yeah, that was awesome. You guys did that podcast. Make sure you go check that one out too. I didn't link that below, but I definitely will. It was very, very well done, and I'm very happy you did it. But now I have it to myself. I have you on the ABJ podcast, and you're all mine now for the next 16 hours. Everyone buckle in.
Yeah, let's go.
So let's be the people who don't know you. Introduce yourself. Tell them what you do, what you're into.
All right. So my name is Gabriel Hodder. I am 1/3 of the hottest faction in professional wrestling, as he mentioned earlier, taking over the Northeast, Primal Fear. And I started wrestling in December 2015 was the first. Yep. Which
do you remember the first day you went into training?
So it's really crazy. My life connection with wrestling goes back forever, literally my whole life. People, you always hear people are like, oh, I wanted to be a wrestler my whole life. I was 2 years old, I was at WrestleMania when it was in Philly. I have pictures with the Godfather and Val Venus as a toddler being held. I just grew up in a family that was just always around wrestling, we loved it. So when I was in kindergarten, I loved wrestling so much, and my birthday was coming up. My parents found out about this place called the Monster Factory that did birthday parties for kids. And I thought that was the coolest thing ever.
That is so dope.
Right? I was I'm going to have my birthday at a wrestling place. This is awesome. So I invited all these kids in my class, right? Probably 20, 25 kids in my class. But with the invitation came a waiver. And parents were so offended that I was having a birthday party that their kid needed to sign a waiver to come to, that I don't think too many kids showed up. But anyway, it was awesome.
When are you? When is your birthday? What month?
October. So October 18th. This would have been maybe 2000 or 2001.
Now, the Monster Factory is known, depending on what time you were there, that they have trained people who have went on to do cool things.
So
was there anyone at your birthday party who went on to do cool shit?
I have later told this story to QT, who swears he was there that day. I don't know how he would ever have remembered that, but I don't remember. I wish I had I have a couple pictures from the day, but nothing really. The only thing I remember is standing on the second rope and one of the wrestlers walking by and telling me to climb to the top instead.
Yeah, it's probably Bam Bam Bigelow.
Yeah, but
you're
so I guess I always knew about this place called the Monster Factory. So I go on through life. I'm in high school. I'm playing football, and I graduate, and I'm supposed to go play college football. So at this time, I'm pretty big. I was about 280 pounds because I was a defensive lineman.
I was about to say, what position?
Yeah, I was a D lineman. And I lasted 3.5 hours of college. I didn't even unpack my truck.
Oh my God. Why?
Yep.
The anxiety or?
Definitely probably a part of it, but I just drove up there, man. And I remember getting there and getting in line and getting my schedule. And looking over my schedule, I didn't even get to go see my room. I met with one of my football coaches. They showed me my locker, and then by the time it was time for me to go meet with my head coach, I just sat down, and I'll never forget. I just looked at him and I said, "I'm going home," and he was like, "What?" And I was like, "I'm leaving, man. I don't want to be here. I'm going home." And they made the mistake of telling me that there was a train on campus that just went directly into Philly. Because I was like 3 hours away. I was in Doylestown, Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
I was going to Del Valle College. I think it's a university now. And I like told them, I was like, if you guys make me stay, I was like, tonight, like I'm just getting on the train and going home. Like, so I'm leaving. But I left and I came home and I think I knew that I just wanted to wrestle.
Yeah.
Like, because it was really like, it was always kind of like a joke, like in high school. Like, I'd always be like, oh no, like I'm going to be a wrestler. Like, you know, playing around with my friends.
There was a small window that was like wrestling was cool to talk about, like Attitude Era, like bro,
So
South Park and pro wrestling were the coolest things in middle school, and then you hit high school and you're like, bro, you still watch that?
So
like,
it's
grow
really
up.
funny. I like tell people all the time. I stopped watching. So I was born in 1995. So I grew up through Attitude Era, Ruthless Aggression Era. I probably stopped around maybe like 2008. My senior year of high school was 2014. And that was when the WWE Network just came out. And that was like WrestleMania 30. And I don't know who, but I remember somebody like at school knew, like, you know, I liked wrestling. Like I would still watch like old wrestling. Like at parties, we would get drunk and wrestle, like do Triple H and spit the water. So like people knew it. And someone was like, yo, like wrestling is like really good again. And I was like, yeah. And they were like, you should watch it. Like, you know, like
did they give you names of who who are your names?
Punk, The Shield,
Yep.
and the Wyatt family.
Yeah, I stopped watching. I graduated 2005, so I'll date myself here. But the year I went to my cousin's house to watch a UFC pay-per-view, and I had no idea what UFC was, and it was Tito Ortiz versus Ken Shamrock. I go, I know that guy. He's a pro wrestler. Like, dude, he's a killer. He's a legit fighter. I was like, what are we watching? They're like, you're gonna watch two men really fight, not that fake stuff. And I was like, I'm in. Let's see what happens here. And I was hooked. Like mixed martial arts. And I remember following it and getting into it. And then I stopped pro wrestling altogether. And then once again, around that same time, the network came. And I'm like, wait, for $10, you can get all of the history of wrestling, and pay-per-views are free. And because that was the biggest thing for me, I would never see pay-per-views because I grew up poor. So I'd watch every week, and then the pay-per-view would happen. I'd be like, I was disconnect. Yeah. And then they're like, yo, CM Punk and Daniel Bryan are going to get you back into pro wrestling. And I was like, let me check it out. Yep. I watched one show, a Royal Rumble. They were gone. They were gone after, like, they both retired right after.
It was crazy. I remember, so like, right my senior year of high school, I started watching again, right towards the end of it, right around, you know, WrestleMania. So that probably was why wrestling was so fresh in my mind while I went to college.
Yeah.
So I came
now. What did one of the question is, well, how did your parents feel when you come walking through the door at possibly 2:00 in the morning after getting off the train?
Well, so my mom was up there with me, so I drove home with her.
Okay.
She was really mad. Like, this was like, me and my mom have not had many fights. This was a pretty big one. but we went to keep my college part. I did go to community college the next day and signed up, and I currently hold 2 degrees. So I ended up doing better. I ended up doing better academically than if I would have stayed there.
Was it the anxiety of like the football team? Was it the anxiety of being on a big campus further away from home?
Well, so number one, this campus, right, was so Delaware Valley University, great football program, awesome. I came from a high school with like a really bad football team. Like throughout my 3 years of varsity football, we probably won like 5 games.
Big goose egg for our team.
Yeah, like we were pretty bad. So this college was like, they were like the #1 Division III school in the country. Like they were like legit. Like people were like leaving there and like getting like tryouts with like the Eagles. And I was like, I want to play for like a really good team. Like this is awesome. Like I went, like they really liked me. Like they were like, man, you're gonna really fit here. So like I like pretty much committed before I ever even took a tour of the place. So I was like, cool, this place is awesome. So I go to look at it the one day, and it is the #1 farming and agricultural college in America.
Oh.
It is just literally a farm with just buildings on it. There's nothing else, like for miles and miles. That's why, like I mentioned earlier, a train. You had to take a train to go anywhere. And I got there, and there was just cows walking around and chickens and I was just like, this is crazy, man.
What's the lady situation like at a farm school?
I don't know. I mean, like,
no one's flocking to that school to pick up chicks, I don't think.
Yeah, I was just like, dude, and like I know which this is going to sound crazy, but this team had a very strict partying policy. Like you could not drink during the football season at all. And I was like, what, dude? Like that sucks. Like there was no dorms. Like it was a really strange college.
Everyone stayed in stalls.
Yeah, it was really weird. So I think I knew I didn't really want to go there. Like I just wanted to go on a good team, but once I got there and it was real. And I was just looking at my schedule and I was like, man, I'm getting up every day now at I think 4:45 we were getting up to get 5 a.m. lifts in, and it was just football all day. It was freshmen had a mandatory study hall. You weren't allowed to have a car on campus till junior year. So I was just like, dude, I cannot be here for the next 4 years. This can't happen. So I left. But I loved football. I ended up coaching back in my high school for the next immediately I went back to my high school and they're like, man, that didn't last long. And I was like, nah, but actually can I help coach? So
I'd have been I blew my knee out first day,
Yeah. I know, everybody was like, dude, what happened? And I was like, oh man, long story.
Yeah. I was actually too good, they said.
Yeah. But yeah, I coached football for 2 years, and then after that second season, I was just I wanted to wrestle. I made up my mind. I was like, man, I'm going to do this. I was 19 and I was just like, this is the time. This is when I'm going to do it. And I was just like, okay, how do I wrestle? And I was like, oh, well, I know about the Monster Factory. I had a birthday party there before. So I was like, let me look it up. So I'm on YouTube and I'm watching the Monster Factory. And right at this time, Danny was doing Monster Factory TV, and it was just a vlog of the training there. And I was like, oh, cool. Let me check this out. So I'm watching it, and in one of the videos is Nick Camarado. And me and Nick went to the same high school. So I'm just watching this video, and I'm just like, well, wait, I know that dude. We went to high school together. And I was like, well, if Nick figured out how to be a wrestler, he's from where I'm from, if he can go be a wrestler, I could be a wrestler. So I tell Nick all the time, which I wish I haven't ever, is he kind of is responsible for me getting into this wrestling thing too. But yeah, so I was like, cool, the Monster Factory. And this is where things get real interesting. So I looked them up, and they just so happen to be having an open tryout for a new reality TV show that they're filming, right? It was, I think, 2 months away.
How do they land all these TV deals?
Well, this one was just, just for YouTube.
They're all, but that's the thing. They're very proactive when it comes to filming the process, and I think that's what makes them stand out.
My whole journey at the Monster Factory, I can go back and watch training footage from my third week there. Everything is documented.
That's awesome.
Danny's great about that. Social media and stuff like that. He kills it.
Yeah, I think that's a really cool, because a lot of people are they walk in and they don't know what to expect. But something like the Monster Factory is kind of oh, well, I mean, it's a no-brainer. You can go watch and oh, that's what they go through. That's kind of dope. Or no, thank you, not for me. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, seriously. And that's what. So this is the funny part too. So I see they have this tryout, right? It's maybe 2 months away. 5 people are going to get picked, and they're going to get to train at the Monster Factory for free. Because at the time, I was still in college. I don't think I had a job. Oh, my job, I was coaching football, and that was paying me about $300 for 4 months.
A season? Yeah.
Yeah. So, and wrestling school is pretty expensive. So I was like, all right, man, this contest is how I'm going to get into wrestling. And so I was I started training. Before I was training for my training, and at this point I had already lost a lot of weight from when I was up to 285. I was down to probably 210 at this point, And I just really started training, and I was watching, like you said, the Monster Factory videos. So like I was teaching myself to roll. I didn't know how hard or soft a wrestling ring was. So I was practicing back bumps on like amateur wrestling mats because like I had access to them, dude, which is like so crazy now.
How many times you knocked the wind out of yourself?
Every time. And I was just, this wrestling stuff really is hard. And then like I'll never forget the night before, like I drove to my best friend's house. I borrowed a pair of his wrestling shoes, and it was just like I was like, man, like this is it. And I was so nervous because I was like, oh my God, man, like John Cena is going to be there. Like, and I showed up, and maybe 20 people are there. And when I tell you, you're
like, I'm winning this shit.
It looked like the Howard Stern show whack pack sitting outside of the Monster Factory. Except for
how many guys brought their own belt?
Dude, man. Except for about maybe 3 people, right? Where like I was like, all right, like they could be like a little bit of competition. But I just remember having like my mind blown, like being like, how could you show one guy? I'll never forget this in the middle of it. Well, so we walk in.
It reminds me of the Always Sunny episode where people try out for the Eagles and they're wearing capes and shit. And they're like,
I mean, it was unbelievable.
Look, this is the gridiron where legends play, and they're pissing on it.
Yeah, like I don't know what they thought, like when I walked in, but I mean, I walked up and I was just like, oh, dude, like if I don't win this, like something's wrong.
Yeah.
And they were like, all right, like let's start with like a 15-minute jog. Like 3 people threw up during that. So I was like, man.
And this is on tape because I will go back and watch this tonight.
I bet it is. I don't know if the whole thing ever got put out, but like there's clips on. The one guy comes in like maybe 40 minutes into it, right? Comes in jeans. And they're like, why are you late? And he said, because I got arrested driving here last night because I got pulled over and I had cocaine in my car.
Like, cocaine, you say? You fit right into wrestling.
I was just sitting there and I was just like, dude, what is going on? But so the rest of the tryout, it was hosted by Danny Cage, QT Marshall, and Damian Priest at the time was Punisher Martinez.
Yeah.
And it was, just basic. Like I said, we jogged for a little bit. I remember they were like, go in, like, let me see if you knew how to take a back bump. And like people's experience levels like ranged. Like some people I think were trained. That was the first time I was ever in a ring, but I did pretty good on my back bumps because I was practicing on wrestling mats for months. And we hit the ropes, and I remember QT complimented me hitting the ropes, and I was like, all right, man, this is pretty cool. And then they were just kind of like, afterwards, they were just like, all right, like, if you're picked, like, you'll hear from us. And I went home, and I think, like, 2 days later, I got a text message, like, hey, you're one of, like, the 4 people picked. It was pretty cool because, like, one of the stipulations was, at the Monster Factory, everyone wears, like, uniforms. We had to strictly wear like plain white t-shirts because like we were like, like we were like earning our way in or whatever. But so if you ever look at there's old like Monster Factory training footage where like I'm in there like doing drills and I'm in there with, like Nick and like Preston Vance and all these guys. And like, I just have a white t-shirt on because I like wasn't like officially like in the school yet, but like I was.
Preston giving him his flowers quick. He's another one. Like he was one of the first people that I like got to see on the independent level, then go and make it. Cause he did a lot of stuff in Northeast PA, like PPW and stuff. And then when he came back to PPW after like he's a part of like the dark, like everything about the Dark Order to me was just so awesome. Like it had Brody, which I loved. It had Uno, it had Grayson from Shakara, it had Preston. I was like, I love this faction. Like this is if you put like amalgamation of all my favorite people in a stable and then gave them a cool mask and they were kind of funny too, I'm in. Like I loved it. Yeah.
He's awesome, man. He was like legitimately like my first like best friend in wrestling. Me and him were like,
I'm so pissed he never got a Dark Order figure. Like I have all the Dark Order figures and I'll never, he had 3 variations of his mask. I'm like, they're going to make so many Preston figures. Not one yet.
It's funny because like my little cousins are all like wrestling fans and like they don't even understand. Like they have pictures of like them as like babies, like in Wildwood, like with like us like holding them up, and like they don't even. And we're like, that's like the guy on TV, and they're
like Damian Priest is probably going to be a world champion within the next 3 months, and he's from Jersey.
I mean, talk about like crazy. Like he was like that's the most like influential person like in my career, which can continue with our, I guess, where we left off after I started training.
Yeah.
So yeah, I get there and I'm a white shirt, we were called. And we had like, man, it was like really strict for us. Like we, at that time, the Monster Factory was training 3 times a week. And it was like, you couldn't be late for a practice and you couldn't miss a practice. Like if you did, like you were done, you were out. And I think it was for like 6 months. And, you know,
because you're on that free tuition. There's 5 people that you could be paying. And so they don't fuck it up.
Yeah. And like, dude, it was like I said, like it was strict. One time I remember I had a flat tire. And I like drove to training, like blew out my tire because I was like, I can't be late like for training. I can't miss like my thing.
Your whole rim is square.
Yeah, dude, it was crazy. I probably have a picture of it somewhere. That was but
so is that essentially where you met the rest of the team? Was all at Monster Factory?
Yeah. So when I had just started training there, Matt and Adrian had just joined maybe 3 or 4 months before me. Preston Vance had just joined about 3 or 4 months before me. And so, yeah, as we were, you know, training, eventually I did become like a full-time student, and I eventually started getting put on the shows at the Monster Factory. And I was just kind of nothing, you know. I was Jude Gabriel, which was my homage to Shawn Michaels, because I switched my first and middle names, and I thought that was so clever that I thought to do that. No one else ever did besides him. And I was just kind of this nothing, like boring baby face that just was like, come on. And during my training and stuff, I had gotten really like close with Damian Priest because it started because we went to the same gym. And one day I'll never forget, I was in there working out. And I would always see him in there, but like at this time we had never like spoken or anything. But I was just in there working out, and I'll never forget just this giant hand just came down on my shoulder, and I was like, dude, what is going on? Like, and I looked up, and he was just like, are you coming to training tonight? And I was just like, yeah. And he just went and just walked away. And like,
dude, I would love to know when his click was. You know what I mean? Because like if you've seen him on the indie scene and then you see what he is now, he completely transformed himself.
I mean, he would tell us like there's like it's crazy. I mean, he was one of the most like being around him was motivating, seeing how motivated he was. Like I said, me and him went to the same gym. And like, man, he was in there busting his ass.
So you watched the Damian Priest transformation.
Yeah,
Mike.
honestly, like, it's really funny because like even before I had started at the Monster Factory, he stands out, you know. So like he kind of always looked familiar. Like people like me and my friends would joke, would be like, man, like there's this dude, like there's a gym that looks like the Undertaker. And then like once I started wrestling, I was like, guys, I know the Undertaker guy now. Like he's my wrestling trick.
And now he's being co-signed. He was co-signed by Scott Hall, and like Scott Hall gave him the Razor's Edge. Like that's so dope. I don't know.
I mean, he's who put me in Primal Fear.
Really?
Yeah, because he knew like me and him from being like personal and like close and stuff. He knew like I like horror movies and like, you know, darker stuff, and that, like I said, my character at that time was just boring and like nothing. And just one night I remember we were doing our warm-up. And he like called me, like he was like, come here. And I was like, what's up? He was like, what would you think about joining Primal Fear? And I was like, if they're cool with it, like absolutely. Because like at this time, like I said, like I was a nobody. I was doing like pre-show matches. I was getting squashed in like 30 seconds. Like, and they were doing like segments on the show. They were having cool matches. Like they had just like main evented against like the Ugly Ducklings, like not long before. Like, so I was like elated that he wanted me to do it. And, you know, luckily they welcomed me with open arms. At the time, there was actually another third member. So there was going to be 4 of us. And right when I joined, this other guy had stopped wrestling.
Mm. How do you guys determine? So like they're a tag team, essentially. They're doing tag team bits. And now kind of Primal Fear is like you slide in to the tag team role, and then Adriana kind of goes to
Yeah.
that solo role. Like, how do you guys
So
determine
it was
we're doing tag and you do solo, or vice versa?
It literally worked out, like I said, so originally in its original formation, I was going to be the singles guy. The other guy who quit was going to be a singles guy, and then Matt and Adrian were the tag team.
Mm-hmm.
As I joined, as the other guy quit, at the Monster Factory, we ran this angle where Adrian like left Primal Fear. So he kind of became like his own character for a little bit. So, and then it just kind of worked that like me and Matt just got put together, and that was 8 years ago, and I don't think I've had one singles match since.
Really? You've only ever done tag?
Yep.
Is that as like a choice, or is it like, because I talked
maybe
like
not one, maybe two.
So like I talked to the brothers Gray, and they said we're pretty much deadlocked in that we will be a tag team. We have interest of ever being solo unless someone comes up with a really good storyline.
Yeah,
we're bonded by tag. Is that kind of feel the same way?
Exactly. Yeah, and I think Matt would probably say the same thing. Like we just express like that to people, and sometimes like people are kind of like confused by that, but like we tell them like we're a tag team. Like, and we do singles, like, if we have to. Like, Matt has done singles where, like, I've gone out, Matt, all of it, we've interchanged. There's been tags where me and Adrian have tagged together, where Matt and Adrian have tagged together. So we're,
like
all
a free bird.
Yeah, but, like, for me personally, like, as an individual, in my 8 years of being in Primal Fear, I think I've had 2 singles matches. And one was a triple threat with the 3 of us.
That's a thing too. Put them against each other.
Yeah.
So when as a team would you feel that you guys really hit your stride? Feel like Primal Fear has clicked, and it was like, oh, we're onto something. Like this is something we can carry through.
Man. So right after I joined, we did this storyline, which culminated with Adrian joining us again. And then we joined with Punisher at the Monster Factory. It was cool. We were killing everybody. It was awesome. But right around that time, there was we did our first Ring of Honor tryout. Now, we went into this Ring of Honor tryout as a trio, never having a 6-man tag match.
Oh.
Yep. Crazy, right? So we did this tryout, and, for it being our first tryout, we were all like super green. We were super green as a team. I was wrestling like maybe like a year at this point, so like we did all right. We got, critiques that we would get for that point. But the second day we did a match, and at the end of the match, we did this thing, and like we didn't plan it. Like it just happened like organically. And, at this time we were dark. I painted my face. We wore masks. This kid was down, and he was going to sell up for our finish, and we all just started crawling like around him, like in a circle, like sharks. And like I said, like it was unplanned. It just happened. And after the match, like, man, all the panel of wrestlers, like, Christopher Daniels, like the Briscoes were there. Punisher was there. He was one of them. Jay Lethal. And they were just like, the match was whatever, but like, that at the end, like that was like magic. They were like, that was like a moment, like something.
When chemistry bleeds through it, you can definitely tell it's a special spot.
Yeah, like, and like being in the ring, like I remember like feeling it, like, man, this feels cool. Like this is
we're like the fucking Brood. We're the Brood.
Like, then we were just like, all right, man, like we're on to something. They told us get better gear, stuff like which we need to get in better shape. So then maybe about a year and a half, 2 years later, we did our second Ring of Honor tryout, which was now in Baltimore. It had moved from Bristol to Baltimore.
Mm-hmm.
And we did the second tryout, which was awesome. We had our match the first day. Me and Matt wrestled SOS. Which is now Khan is killing it in AEW, man. He's awesome. Gates of Agony are awesome. He deserves all that success he's getting. And
They have
most,
such an old school look, like an old school set 80s, 90s tag team look.
he is like Khan is someone that I immediately like clicked with. He loves horror movies. Me and him would come into training and just sit and talk about horror movies all training. Everybody else probably hated it because it was
I love it, yeah.
But so we wrestled them the first day. And like what was really cool about that was like Bully Ray liked the match a lot, which I was like, man, that's cool. Like that this
The
guy
tag team guys giving you love.
saying that
yeah.
like we had a tag match. Man, I actually don't think I remember who we wrestled. Oh, on the second day we wrestled 3 of QT's students, which Alan Angels was one of them.
He's so good. Yeah,
so that was like we met him that weekend. And so they were part of the match. We ended up having a 6-man with all 3 of them who came up from the Nightmare Factory. And then at the end of like the camp, we were all kind of just sitting around, and we got like called into the office, and they were just like, we want you guys to start like training here whenever you can start.
So when you get called in the office, who are you in there with?
So they called the 3 of us, and at the time it was BJ Whitmer.
Okay. I didn't know if it was like if you were having a meeting with Carrie at that point in time.
No. So he was in charge of the dojo. Well, I guess he was like overseeing the dojo, but the trainers were Will Ferrara and Jonathan Gresham.
Okay.
So we were like, wow, man, that's awesome. Like, speaking of, Punisher or Damian Priest, he was like the first person I texted like after they called us in the office, like, and he was just down in NXT at this point, so it was really cool. Like, kind of feel like we were like kind of coming up together, like,
yeah,
it was cool. And we started at the dojo, and it was awesome there, man. I mean, and like we were saying, as far as us being like a tag team, like we were at the dojo specifically as a trio. Like we were being
ROH literally was one of the only companies in America that was honoring a trios title.
Yeah, we were being trained as a trio. Like people would go off and do like different stuff, and Gresham would take us, and we would watch like Dragon Gate like 6-man tag matches and like break them down. And so like I always tell people that like when I say like we're one of the, I don't know, maybe only authentically trained like trio in the world, I really think that's true. Like
I would agree
to be a 6-man. Like other people are people that get put together or whatever. Like we have been trained to be like this unit. Like it was cool.
How do you feel now in the landscape of wrestling where trios tag teams are like being recognized? Like they're looking at, you look at WWE and people are like, I know we're in a world where there's too many titles, but a trios title in pro wrestling just seems to make sense with today's times.
Throughout history, man, even like in the Attitude Era, or a little before the Attitude Era, when they were doing like the gang warfare, like they were all trios matches. Like when it was DOA and Los Boricuas and all that, like. So it's always been like a staple of wrestling, and I think like you said, right now WWE would be a great time for it. They have so many trios there right now.
Yeah, the Bloodline could have been trios tag teams. Judgment Day could be trios tag teams. Alpha Academy has 3 to 4 members at any given time. Like with
I think it's a good chance to shout out PPW for being
one of the first indie
few indies. Yeah, I probably could think of another, but I mean that's awesome that they have that. It's becoming a part of wrestling. It's just as much a part of wrestling as tag wrestling or singles wrestling.
Do you prefer, when you do trios, do you prefer the traditional tag rope tags, or do you prefer the lucha tag where like a guy can roll out and a guy can come in? As a worker, I can see why you like to stay on the rope and wait for the tag because you breathe better. But as a fan, I love lucha tag rolls.
I mean, honestly, I think the lucha rolls would actually be like easier because sometimes the actual tags is when it can get like tricky. But I don't know. I think it depends. Every match is its own unique situation, It depends on what story you're trying to tell. If we have a 6-minute match and, we're like, hey, let's just go do some fireworks, like, we'll probably just do some lucha rules, but if we're trying to, tell a big dramatic story, because then now the tag is really the story of a tag match, kind of hard to have the drama of a tag in a tag match if the tag doesn't matter.
Yeah. When did you guys decide to switch from the dark, spooky, occult looking tag teams to being more this lighthearted tag team of the people? Because like kids are like Primal Fear.
I know,
you guys are
really funny.
Yeah.
We've come a long way. We were backstage at AEW for Dark, and we had our masks and all our stuff on, and House of Black walked by. And we
take
were
that shit off.
No, but we were like, they have that here. Why are we, like every show is kind of like a puzzle, and they're the Dark trio. And so that piece of the puzzle is already there. So we're not that piece of the puzzle.
I said the same thing with when everyone's like, oh, they brought back Cross and Cross isn't being utilized. I said, because they brought Cross back and they brought Bray back. Cross can't be the spooky guy because Bray's the spooky guy. So he had to take a back seat and do something else. You know what I mean?
Exactly. It's just like John Cena just said it on one of his interviews he did. Like, whatever he used the example of him being the rapper. He was like, I'm the rapper on the show. Like, that's his character. So no one else can be the rapper on the show. Like, and that was kind of really like a reflective. And also, we were kind of, as performers, feeling a little limited with that gimmick. It's cool, it's fun. I, at my core, like, love dark, spooky horror, but I think, like, for me personally, I have a lot more personality to the show than when I used to paint my face and not talk.
Yeah. But that's a cool thing that you can call back to as well. So say, like, for example, at PPW, this syndicate it brings the worst out of you guys. It can get to a point where you guys might have to bust a face paint out and go back to the old.
Yeah, it's always still there. It's all still there.
Where it's like you guys are love-hearted and fun, but the second that switch has to be hit, it's almost like when Finn Balor puts the demon on. Yeah, it's like you just brought Primal Fear back to its primal era, and you're in trouble. You know what I mean? Like that's a cool thing you guys always lean on, but still be the insane baby faces of the company where the kids are into what you're doing and all of that. So I think it's cool you always have that to fall back on.
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like you kind of always have to evolve as a character, especially as a group. Like, you gotta look at the best ever. They always just keep evolving. You can't just stay one thing forever.
Yeah. Who are some tag teams on the scene or trios teams that you've been put in with that like stand out to you as some matches that really like stick out as some of your favorites?
Man, we just recently Ace of Space Academy is great up at
they're so good. They're so good.
We've wrestled them in all different configurations of them, and they're awesome every time. I
think PPW is just bringing in what's his name?
GMK. Yep.
GMK. He's so good.
Oh man, they're great. They're all great. We just recently had a really good 6-man with Big Business also at WrestlePro. Brick City Boys and TJ Crawford. We got a big match coming up with the Syndicate, I believe.
Yeah.
So, that was good. I enjoyed that. I'd like a good fight. They hit me really hard, and I hit them really hard. And I like people that can get in the ring, and I can do that with them. So I'm looking forward to doing that again.
I think PPW looks at you guys. I mean, I was kind of hearing the rumblings backstage when you guys came in, and it was treated as a big deal. They were very proud that you guys committed to PPW and that you were a part of them and gave them the dates. And because I feel like the trios titles were kind of made for you guys essentially, but then like the Syndicate comes in, and then the Brothers Great come in, and then they join up with Sam Adams, who's a legend in the business, and they kind of form this trio. And it's like, I think they have lightning in the bottle between you guys of like this long-term storytelling or this feud that you can do with these three people.
And I give them a lot of credit, man, because like they committed to it. They went out and got matching gear, and like, that's an investment a lot of people wouldn't have made. So like, good for them,
Yeah.
Shows that they're serious about this trio stuff. They got a lot of work to do to be as good as us, but
yeah, absolutely. But I think you guys bring the best out of each other.
Absolutely.
Which as fans, if you haven't bought your tickets for 420 for PPW, go grab them, because I think there's a lot of magic in that trios division right now, and I think you guys are the ones holding that flag for it.
A little over in the home side of New Jersey, April 4th, we got a steel cage match coming up against the Backseat Boys.
Oh,
super crazy pro wrestling.
Tag or trios?
Yep, tag for the tag championships.
Nice.
Those bums jumped us and cheated and beat us at the last show for our tag titles. But now we got them locked in a cage.
Have you guys ever worked the Audacity? They kind of have like the masks, like the Casey Jones masks and the shoulder pads.
I have seen them, but we've never.
They have a good look too. Real good look.
They do. I've seen them and they stood out to me.
Yeah, I think they're very talented. I called a few of their matches in New Jersey. That would be another one. I think Primal Fear would be a cool tag team.
Man, we're always down. We're taking on all challengers, especially at Super Crazy Pro Wrestling. That's our home promotion where we help train there. And we're open to any tag team that wants to come in and get beat up.
Yeah. Well, Adam, this is a good question, because this is kind of where I was leading to next. But he says, how do you keep each other from driving each other crazy of spending so much time with each other?
Man, it's really never been a problem. Just we've always had like really good, like not just like in-ring chemistry, but I think the in-ring chemistry comes from us just getting along as like three guys that are like really genuinely best friends.
Yeah. And I think this is where I think tag team wrestling and trios, people miss the ball a lot with, right? Because this business, pull the curtain back a little bit, can be really rough. Mentally, it could be rough where you think you have friends that turn around and everyone's chasing the same golden ring, right? And sometimes
it's hard,
and sometimes people got to do what they got to do to try to get that ring before the other guy, and friendships and egos and all that can get in the way. But when you are part of a trio, or you have that brotherhood of a tag team, or just a group of people, like the Lost Boys are another ones I look out to right now. There's four of them. It's those car rides of like not doing it by yourself, or where you can be vulnerable to your partner and be like, man, I'm mentally going through it. Can I just vent to you guys? Like, I just need to kind of get this off, because if I vent to somebody in the back, they might take it as I'm talking shit, but I'm not. I just need to get these feelings out so I can let it go. But then people start drama. It could be all of that. But I think having that car ride of all used together, where you can get those emotions out, be for each other's backs and support, I think that's super important. And I think that leads to longevity in this business.
Yeah, and like a lot of it really is like that there's no like ego. Like we truly look at it as like the overall goal of like Primal Fear is bigger than like the three of us individually, So that's why like any individual success that either one of us has really just works towards the greater goal.
Yeah. You guys are very, very good with your social media game. It's one of the things I always put people over. I always tell younger wrestlers to be like, dude, I think vlogging as a younger wrestler is super important. I like people like keeping a journal in general, I think is very important. How many wrestlers have their book of every match they've ever done or everything like that?
They started doing that.
Yeah, but like imagine videoing it. And I think the fans enjoy that. I understand that kayfabe is very important, but is it at this point anymore? But like, I think that's where your fans really connect with Primal Fear, is when you guys are doing your vlogs and you're at shows or you're in the car rides, and you kind of give your fans that experience of what it's like to be in the car with Primal Fear, or to be at a show with Primal Fear. And I think that's super special. And what sparked you guys to give that access to your fans and going that route?
I don't know like exactly when it started. I just know one day Adrian just started filming, and he was just like, I think we should vlog stuff. And we've been all in since,
I made the vlog once. No, not want to brag.
Yeah. Which shout out to the vlog, which you can check out over at True Primal Fear on YouTube. We're on our way to 1,000 subscribers. We
have no subscribers. Yes,
we just hit over 500 about 2 weeks ago. On the way to 1,000, baby.
That is a hard grind to do. Actually, the link tree is for you and Primal Fear are in the links below. So go through the link tree and definitely subscribe to that. I will maybe if one of my moderators head over to YouTube and get the link and put it in the comments. Jamie, pull that up, Jamie. That's a Joe Rogan joke. So when you're not professional wrestling and kicking ass and winning titles and taking over the East Coast with your boys, what are some interests of you that stand out? What are things that you like to unwind and do? Maybe read a book, watch a movie, listen to music.
I really like movies. I really like going to the movies. I'm a purist in that sense.
I haven't gone to a movie in forever.
Wow. See, really? I think it's like, I don't think number one, my attention span needs it. At home, I'm too distracted. And like, I love movies. Like, movies are like my favorite thing in the world. But at home, it's just too easy for me to pick up my
your
phone or
yep.
go get. So like, I kind of need to go to the movies.
I think the last movie I seen in theaters was there were two horror movies. I seen the newest Scream and Cocaine Bear.
Yep, saw
the
that
two
one.
I watched in theater. It's
so
good.
It's
awesome.
Gotta watch it. But I think I have the Cinemark Movie Club membership. It's the best thing I've ever bought.
It's a good deal.
It's awesome, dude. I don't know how everyone in the world doesn't do it.
So I have to drive almost an hour and 20 minutes to get to a Cinemark. It's up in Moosic, Pennsylvania, but they have those big leather super seats, and you can roll them back. And I love it. So you prefer the horror movie scene?
Yeah, I mean, I really like all movies, but I mean, horror movies are definitely my forte, as you can see by my my last name, which was drawn from the GOAT of all horror movie killers, Kane Hodder.
So I'm actually wearing a horror movie T-shirt right now. I am wearing the Godfather of zombie movies. That's a George Romero
awesome,
shirt.
George Romero, hell yeah.
Yeah, Pennsylvania, the home of the zombie. Yeah, we birthed the zombie movies.
I love.
There it is. There, Lily put it up. So go check out Primal Fear's YouTube channel right there. Thank you, Lily. Yeah, Lily's killing it. My mods in the chat doing the job. Appreciate you.
I love the Dawn of the Dead remake. What was that, like 2004 or 5? Love that.
Yeah, I the original is my favorite of all time.
Old movies are kind of hard for me to watch.
Really?
Except, no, honestly, yeah.
So what is if you had to say like your top 3 favorite horror movies?
Oh man, they changed so much because like I look at horror in like such a different way. Like my favorites are like slashers.
I was gonna say, are you a slasher, a monster?
So like I like all of them, but like it depends, like what you're going for. Like my favorite, like if I'm just like fun, like I love like Friday the 13th Part 7 is great.
Yeah.
I love Jason X as well.
Yeah, it's a great one.
I love all the Scream movies.
Scream's probably my favorite franchise.
Yeah, honestly, like as far as like good slasher movies that are actually like good movies as well, like it's definitely Scream.
Scream 1 is that movie that I know you're part of a recovery thing, but like Scream 1 is a high you'll never get ever again. Once the whodunit has been done, you'll never experience that again. But every time you watch it after, you're like, oh, that's how they could have been here, but not there. So it's like a different experience every time. Scream's my number 2 of all time. Number 1 is the original Halloween. I think the original Halloween's a masterpiece.
Oh man, kick me off the show.
You hate it?
I hate it.
The original Halloween's so good, but the rest of the franchise is dog shit.
Oh my god! I see, man. I like once a year try to watch it because like I want to like it, and I think it's just so boring.
It is a slower paced movie, yeah, definitely slower paced.
People get so mad because I love the Rob Zombie one.
I like the first Rob Zombie.
Yeah, the second one.
The second one not great.
The first one I think is really good.
See, I love Nightmare on Elm Street. I love the remake. I like the remake. I like how they made Freddy scary again. Like they made Freddy terrifying.
Yeah. The Friday the 13th remake I think is underrated.
So you like Hodder, right? So what where does Hatchet fall into your list? I love the Hatchet movies.
They're the same as like just the Friday the 13th. Like they're just like people like look at me like funny like when I say they're like fun movies, but like it just you're like, what goofy way is this person gonna go get chopped up? Like,
the claymation kills in Hatchet are the best. Yeah, where he's just like spinning their head around.
But then there's also there's scary movies, and I have like a whole like Sinister I think is like a terrifying movie.
Yeah.
I recently watched Skinamarink.
I didn't see that one yet. Oh wait, is that the one where you're like, it's just a house?
It's weird. It's an experience, I would say.
I didn't hear good things about it.
It's weird, man. And I'm a maniac. I woke up at 4:00 in the morning so I could watch it, just like in the pitch black dark. Like I sat close to my TV and watched.
Are you a Shudder subscriber? Do you have Shudder?
I do.
I gotta get Shudder.
Pretty
when
good.
I get a job, that's the first thing I'm getting.
You know, sometimes there's good stuff on it, and sometimes it's kind of.
Yeah, I love the B-rated ones. I love the ones that are like. When Netflix first started and it had a first streaming service and they had nothing on there that was mainstream, and it was like, this movie is a half a star, I'm like, I'm in. And
Yeah,
I would watch.
I don't know why. I just forever, my whole life, like have loved like horror movies. Like I remember like just being a little kid and like you said, going through like Showtime and just like the worst like horror movies ever were on. It's like, did you ever see like Drive Through? You know that movie?
Yeah. Yeah.
I remember being like
Hotel Hell.
Yeah, and just be like, dude, these movies are awesome.
Except when you go through Blockbuster and the Ice Cream Man and he's licking the eyeball, or critters. Yeah. They had those. Or was a Demon Night with the demon, and she's like the box art would get me every time.
I remember the Tales from the Crypts movies.
Yeah,
watching them as a kid.
That was my favorite TV show growing up, Tales of the Crypt.
Oh, dude, I love that show.
That pan shot going through the.
Sometimes I would be afraid of it so I would run away until that part was over, and then
hide behind the couch till he popped out.
I didn't like the beginning part.
And once you hear, you're like,
yeah,
I'm good. Cool. I'm back. I'm in. I'm in. To this day, I hate jump scares. I get pissed when I get jump scared. I get angry. Like, fuck you. Come on, get creative. You got me.
Then that's like a whole kind of genre of movies. So like jump scare ones, like
Yeah, PG-13 horrors essentially today's time is all jump scare.
Yep.
Yeah. The chat's blowing up. They love the horror talk. Nev Campbell will be back for the next Scream. Yeah, but they got rid of all the other actors that made the Screams good again.
That's a hot situation.
Ortega is gone, and all those. Like I like the way they were building that. So
I do love Nev Campbell though. I feel like
So they said, "How do you feel about Terrifier?"
So
I can't say too much on this because on Thursday I will be reviewing Terrifier live here on this YouTube channel.
I will say I've never watched the first one. I did watch the second one.
If you were confused by part 2, part 1 will not give you any answers.
I've there's cool moments in it. I think he's like an amazing actor. He's pretty terrifying. He's like definitely like a horror icon already, but I don't know. I think it's a little more mean-spirited than I like in my slasher movies.
Yeah,
there has to be a couple of the Screams kind of get in like that territory where they get pretty.
I feel like your character has to have morals, or not morals, but rules. Like I know I'm talking like the Scream movie itself. Like everything has to have a rule. You know what I mean? But Terrifier has no rule. Like Terrifier is essentially, I call it, like, it's TikTok horror. It's essentially it's a little segment and then a brutal death. And then a little segment, and then it's essentially like if you're scrolling through death scenes.
That is a very good way to describe it.
Lily says C. Henry says the original Texas Chainsaw Massacres are off the chain. I'm a Texas Chainsaw Massacre fan. The new video game is a lot of fun to play.
I like the remake with who is it? Jessica Biel,
and Matt McConaughey, and
the one. Oh man, maybe like 2004.
Oh, okay,
Jessica Biel, I think, is the star of it. Really, that one's really good. And the one Texas Chainsaw, the beginning, which is like the prequel, the first one that they did is really good. But all the recent ones have been trash.
He's a cool character. Leatherface always sometimes gets left on the list. Another one, Lily says Teeth.
I missed that one. I know what it's about, but I missed it.
Okay, so you've never watched Teeth? Yeah, I know what it's about. I know the front. That's it. We're reviewing Teeth. Love jump scares when they're done right. Yeah, they're good, but I get mad that they get me. I get pissed off about it. Adam says The Shining is a favorite as well. Thank you, Adam, for hanging out and joining the chat. I appreciate that. I love seeing new faces. Yeah, horror is so good. Do you like the horror TV shows and comic books and stuff like that as well?
I just finished Fall of the House of Usher. Did you watch that?
No. What's that
Netflix?
on?
It was on Netflix. It was one of them I can't think of his name now, but he made like The Haunting of Bly Manor and The Haunting of Hill House.
So I loved Haunting of Hill House. I started Bly Manor and it petered out for me. I have to give it another chance.
Hill House was good though, because I need
loved Hill House.
Yeah, I gotta check it out. I heard
Hill House is really good.
I like American Horror Stories. I like when they're good. Some of them are bad, but
American Horror loses me after like 2 or 3 episodes. Like the first season I loved until the very last episode, and they Beetlejuiced it. Like we're just gonna scare everyone who lives here. I was like, you just Sesame Street this whole season. Then there was a few seasons where I was like, I was half in, half out, and then the Lady Gaga season. That opening scene,
I like that one.
Is the greatest piece of cinema of all time. That the foursome death scene, amazing. If I died that way, I would be okay with it. That's how I want to go out.
Lady Gaga in the room.
Yeah, I want to be killed by Lady Gaga during a foursome. Yeah.
But besides,
the rest of the show, not for me.
After that, I'm done. That's all I need. I feel like there's not a lot of good horror TV.
The Child's Play TV show is awesome.
Yeah, I watched a little bit of it.
They tie all the movies together. Like they make the whole.
They did a good job of getting that like franchise back on track.
Yeah, I love Child's Play.
It's
so good.
What is it? The one when they're in the asylum is like really good.
Mm-hmm. I even like the remake when Mark Hamill did the voice, where he was more like an iRobot type deal.
That was too bad either. I thought it was pretty cool. But that's the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Makes them start killing people. They watch it.
Are you a gamer? Do you play games?
A little bit. Not.
You're always on the road, so it's probably hard, huh?
Yeah, I mean, if I do, I play like Madden or like I'm trying to get to 2K.
The WB.
Yeah,
it's a lot of fun. You should try the Texas Chainsaw Massacre game.
I see it looks cool. I've never played the Friday the 13th game either, but I always watch.
It was good until it got discontinued. It was a lot of fun, but the Texas Chainsaw Massacre is a lot of fun. But look at everyone's jumping in this. Everyone's saying the fall of the House of Usher was good. Great show. Look at everyone getting involved. I gotta watch it now.
Cool,
I gotta check it out.
Every episode it was kind of based off loosely off like a Edgar Allan Poe story.
Yeah, I think you got us. You won.
Yeah, it was pretty cool.
Haunting on Hill House. You know what really pushed that show for me, because I'm a huge fan of her. That Kate Segal.
Yeah,
she's so good. Did you ever see the movie Hush with her?
Yeah, is that
where she's deaf and then this how the home invader comes? Such a good movie.
That's a scary movie, man. That's like a really terrifying premise.
Yeah. Well, the other one too, You're Next, where the guy goes and brings his girlfriend to a dinner date, and then she loyal. I wanted that girl to be Laura Croft in the movies. Like that girl would have been a great Laura Croft.
That girl kicks ass, man.
Yeah, it's such a good movie. That's one I recommend.
The other one, did you ever see Ready or Not? I think that's kind of like that.
Yeah. You know what one I really like too? Trigger warning if bad thing if we'll just say SA in movies is a trigger for you. I understand horror is not for everyone because they do a lot of that, but It Follows was such an interesting movie.
It's
like a sexually transmitted ghost.
Yeah, that's what I've heard. Like the premise of it is, but I've never seen that one. But is that like the same? I know it came around kind of as the time as like Hereditary and
yeah. Oh, Midsummer's a good one too.
See, I don't even like Midsummer, and people get so mad at me.
It's so because you can't leave. Like even if you're like,
I just think, and like Hereditary too. I didn't like.
I get really nervous being in environments that I'm not used to, because like people are like, bro, this movie would be over in 15 minutes. I'm like, would it? Yeah. If someone brought you to a property that's 30 miles from your house, but there was like nothing but woods between you and them, and they knew every inch of that ground, you're dead. You're not winning. And that's the scariest part about it, is like that uncertainty. But like Hostel, when I went to the UK, I was like, bro, I don't care how hot she is, I'm not going back with anybody.
I don't know how old I was, but I shouldn't have been in the theaters watching them movies. And them movies are brutal, dude. Yeah. They like scarred me for life, man.
Saw kicked off that generation of like the super gory. I remember being in theaters for Saw and pissing myself laughing on that end scene because the acting was so bad when he's cutting his leg off. And I'm like,
I remember for the Punisher movie, the one with Thomas Jane. If you got the DVD, on the bonus disc was a preview for Saw, and it terrified me.
Really?
It was shot, kind of like low budget, and like it was on like a weird little like DVD. Like it felt like you like shouldn't have been watching it. I was like, damn, like, this is real.
Yeah, horror movies so good, man, but you have to seek it out because a lot like I said, the most of the stuff you're gonna see on TV and commercials is the PG horror movies where it's like mostly your jump scares and stuff like that. But
Which
there's
every
some
once
stuff
in a
out there.
while, a good one of those comes out.
Yeah, there's some good ones, but they're all kind of like I always say, like the James Wan horror movies.
Yeah.
They're all kind of the same tempo, same feeling, same everything, and you don't get that guttural like, oh, I'm sick to my stomach. Like this is getting to me. You know what I mean? Like
I heard like have you seen Where Evil Lurks? I think it's called.
I have not yet.
That's like going around right now. That's supposed to be
so
like,
on my list I'm doing episodes with people. I'm doing Barbarian. I haven't seen that yet.
Oh, dude, so good.
Lighthouse. It's not horror, but it's kind of there's elements to it. I'm actually more excited to do it with the guest I'm doing it with because I think it's gonna be hilarious. I'm doing Lighthouse with abs.
That is
yeah.
And like the thing is, like it's like good acting, Willem Dafoe is awesome.
Yeah. I'm doing Meg with Kim Rose.
Okay, that movie was awesome.
No, Megan.
Yeah.
Megan. No, not Meg the shark.
Yeah,
Megan. Yeah.
Cool. Awesome.
Yes,
movie.
someone made me a Meg logo, and I was like, that doesn't look anything like the Meg. And then she's like, I did Meg because that's what you told me. Yeah, so I have. So if anyone's doing a Megalodon movie, I have a logo.
Yeah, well, if anyone really likes dinosaur sharks.
Yeah. Black Phone is on the list.
Really good too. I really like that.
And Saw is on the list.
OG.
When you do Lighthouse, make sure you turn on Tony Cam. Yes, Tony Cam will definitely be used. I have this thing that was made for me from when we watch AEW. I turn this on Tony Cam, and then I this is way too long for a bit, but I literally just turn the contrast down on my camera.
There you go.
Yeah.
I would fit in with Lighthouse.
What's that?
It would look good with the Lighthouse guy.
Yeah. So we'll probably do that to be funny. Just figure out how to do it. But yeah, there's a short film on YouTube they call Portrait of God, which is super good. What was those like 30-second horror where they were doing like small little YouTube clips or Facebook ones where it was like the girl would be like laying in bed, she turned the light off and something was standing there, and then she turned it back on, it was gone. They were just like really short little horror clips. I was like, oh man, they're so good.
Some people get like started now, like the dude who made Skinamarink, like put that up as like a 5-minute video on YouTube that just blew up, and they got that turned into like a whole movie.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm pumped. I think there's a lot of good stuff coming out. A lot of good horror. I'm really looking forward to.
Lately, like in the past, like maybe 5 years, has been like awesome. Like there's just been like good, like quality, like good movies coming out. Yeah,
I've been so bad for the last 10 months. I haven't really consumed anything new media, so I'm like going back on all of my stuff and figuring it out. But
how about did you watch the new Crow trailer?
I think the Crow trailer looks awesome.
I think it looks so cool.
Yeah. So I'm under the. Actually, you just watched Crow. I fell asleep. I just put it on for her because I was like, just watch this movie. I'm gonna go to sleep. I like the original Crow, but I also think the original Crow did took its own liberties on the graphic comic and did something completely different.
Well, so see, I'm not familiar with the comic.
Yeah,
I know the movie, so like I didn't know in the comic you don't wear the makeup. Like, why are people so mad he's not wearing the makeup?
Yeah. Well, the makeup was essentially his blood. His blood is black when he's the Crow. So what you see the makeup on him, that's actually his blood. So the new movie is pulling more from the graphic novel.
Yeah, which is like, so then people who like the old movie shouldn't be mad because it's not trying to be the old movie.
I think it's because one of those movies where it's like the actor died doing it, and everyone's like, you should never redo it because it's I get it, but sometimes.
But why weren't they so mad about like the 5 terrible sequels that came out?
Exactly.
Like
I've never watched any of them.
Yeah, the second one's not bad. The guy's a magician. It's pretty cool.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but after that,
Magic Crow. Yeah, and then we got cool. Sting for 15 years after that. Yeah. So like everyone should just be happy. Yeah.
But yeah, I think it looks really cool. It won me over as soon as he blew the guy's face up with the shotgun.
Yeah, dude, the shotgun scene. I was like,
I'm in. Yep.
Yeah, it's signed. Here's my money.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, there's a lot coming out. I wish I had a better list prepared of upcoming. Was one everyone's talking about called Skinny Legs that everyone's going crazy about? Like that one's going to be a big one. Terrifier 3's drops in Christmas, and that's going to be a Christmas movie.
Yeah, which I'm interested to see how it goes. I enjoyed like the little bit of the kind of lore that they put into the last one.
Yeah.
And I think they got something good going on with this character, the girl that is going to like able to kill him.
Yeah.
Serena is her name, I think.
Something it gets really wild. I have no idea what's happening. Let's tie this with wrestling and horror. Who's your favorite professional wrestler, and what is your favorite professional wrestler in a horror movie?
Oh, in a horror movie.
Yes.
Man.
So you have Santa Slay.
I was just gonna say I really like the first See No Evil.
See No Evil is a great movie.
But Santa Slay is great.
So See No Evil, you know where it takes place?
No.
The Blackwell Hotel.
Oh, wow.
It has my last name. Yeah.
Yep.
Dave Bautista in the Zombie in Vegas movie. Awesome.
Oh, awesome. Him and Knock in the Cabin is really good.
I didn't see that yet.
Dude, good. Really good movie.
Yeah. Is there any other
yeah, I'm trying to think. Triple H was in Blade 3.
Blade. Hornswoggle was Leprechaun.
But like a weird leprechaun.
Yeah, it was more like a realistic version. It wasn't funny at all.
No, that one, that was. And
there was like a WWE Productions one.
Yeah, it was
pretty bad. But See No Evil is a low-key, really good horror movie.
Really good. The second one's not too good.
Yeah, the death scenes are all good for most of them.
And like Kane is like a genuinely terrifying human being.
Yeah, I mean, you can make an Isaac Yankem horror movie. It would terrify the shit out of me. Like he was a scary-looking guy. Yeah. So we'll end with this last question, wrestling question related. So if you had any influences on when you go back in wrestling, because tape studies as someone who wants to be a predominantly tag team wrestler, I'm sure you still like singles wrestling, but when you're trying to pull that in for inspiration, do you look at singles, or do you strictly stick to the trios? Do you strictly stick to tag? Who are some people that you try to pull from?
Well, so when it comes to like tag teams, I watch a lot of FTR. I think like they're like right now, they're great. They're as far as like kind of advanced, like next level like stuff. I like to look at them. But also for just like little things for tag team wrestling, I like to watch like Attitude Era, like Raw and SmackDown matches, where like they only had like 5 minutes. So like it was just like their cool stuff, and they were doing like, the Dudley Boys are awesome. I love the Hardy Boys. Like the Hardy Boys are probably the reason like I forever have wanted to be a tag team wrestler. Like when I was a little kid and used to play like SmackDown or whatever back then, like I would do the story modes where like you went after like the tag titles. Like I always liked tag team wrestling.
I love tag team wrestling until Sean threw someone through a barbershop window, and then I was like, solo for life, baby.
So like that, but as far as like individuals, really a lot. Like I love Triple H. He's one of my favorites. Bray Wyatt was a huge influence on a lot of stuff that I do. I think everybody should watch Shawn Michaels.
Agreed. I totally agree.
Guys like that. I try to take a little bit from everybody, more guys. And then sometimes I look at guys that I feel like are kind of similar in like my build and my size. Like I think like Pete Dunne is like, sometimes I look at him as like a good guy to kind of see like, what's he doing?
Yeah. If there's a dream match, you in a tag team or you in a trio, Primal Fear verse, who's the dream match?
Man, for the trio, it's always been so tough to decide if it's the Shield or the Wyatt family.
Okay.
I think I would have to go with the Wyatt family.
I would say Primal Fear versus Undisputed Era.
That would be awesome.
Give me Adam, give me Roddy, and give me Kyle.
Yeah, I mean, dude, there's so many answers.
Sorry, Bobby.
Yeah. We were fortunate enough when we were in Ring of Honor to face Mexa Squad, who was like one of the top trios in the world. Like, so that was like a dream match that came true. Wrestling Shane Taylor promotion was like a dream match.
Did you guys ever wrestle SAT?
No.
Really?
Nope.
How has no one booked that?
No, we've talked to them a couple times too. That would be awesome. That's a dream match.
Because they're probably, if you think about it, before you guys, if anyone is a trios team in the Northeast scene,
absolutely.
It's them. The SAT is the trio. You know what I mean?
Like, man, like what they were doing, I mean, it's crazy. Like, wrestling is how it is now because of them and a lot of what they were doing.
Yeah. Innovators.
Yeah.
So we have a couple last minute questions from the chat. Get them in while you can. So I don't want to keep him here all night. I'll ask one more, and then we'll. You kind of alluded to it before with Hodder of why that came about. So the wrestling name, where do you pull from when it comes to creating your character?
Well, so it was really funny, right? When we first were in Primal Fear, we all just had one name. It was Gabriel, it was Omen, and it was Soriano. And I think it was when we got to Ring of Honor, they told us, you guys need to have last names. Like, you need to be real people. And we were like, okay. And man, I was having the hardest time coming up with a last name. I could not for the life of me, man. I really wanted to do Blackwood because I was like a town I lived in at the time. But then Kevin Blackwood was like, getting pretty big at the time. I don't remember anything else, but I could not think of anything. And then one day I was just like looking around my room and I have about 9 million things signed by Kane Hodder. And like, I just kind of like locked like eyes with it. And I was just like Hodder. And I was like Gabriel Hodder, blah, blah, blah. I wanted to do Draven because of the crow, but everybody is.
Everyone's Draven. There's so many Eric Dravens in professional wrestling.
It's crazy. So, and I was thinking, and I was like Gabriel Hodder, and I was like, I thought it sounded very natural. Like it didn't sound like a forced, like made up gimmicky name. Like it could be anybody's name, and like I think it's really cool because it's like a very subtle like reference.
I think it's cool too because you have Gabriel, which is essentially an angel, right?
Yeah.
Like Gabriel's an angel, and then Hodder's like the epitome of a slasher killer.
Yeah.
You know what I
which
mean?
Is
like
funny because like Gabriel is my real name.
Yeah.
But for my confirmation name is Damien, which I picked.
That's awesome.
I thought that
was 666. I always, now that my hair is long, I always want to shave a spot. Like, so if I ever do an undercut, I want to get the Omen tattooed on me.
Well, I've always been so jealous of Matt because I thought Matt Omen was the fucking coolest name ever.
Yeah.
Like when I first met him and he was like, "Oh, I'm Matt Omen." I was like, "Damn, what a cool name."
Yeah, you win.
Yeah.
When you going back to PPW and being at PPW and you have that history of ROH and you worked with a lot of people from ROH and now you kind of get the cross paths again with a guy at PPW, and he probably hates me for blowing him up like this, but I feel like his locker room leadership, especially now at PPW, has gone above and beyond anything I would ever expect. But now working with the Mecca, like he's part of PPW and not only like in charge of a lot of cool things there, but like he's really helped drive stories that aren't even just his. Like he puts input on a lot of things and he's good for what's going on in that company. How is it now being with him at ROH and now seeing him in that spot at PPW?
He is, I mean, one of like, I've been around people that I'm like, man, he's like a wrestling genius. And like, he's one of them. Like, to go a little more behind the curtain, he was like the leader, like at the dojo. Like he was a part of our dojo class when we were there at the Ring of Honor dojo. He was a part of the first tryout. We were the second tryout, but he was like essentially like team leader, like team captain. And he is someone that he holds you to a standard. Like you're in there and like it's work. Like he takes it very seriously and it's inspiring, like to be around someone that does take it seriously, and he does it because he genuinely just wants the business to be better. Like he doesn't need to be going above and beyond and doing all that he's doing and helping these guys with these matches and coming up with these storylines. He just does it because he genuinely just loves wrestling. Like we used to have
someone who needs his praises sung.
Yeah, like we used to have matches like that would come out on like the Ring of Honor YouTube, and then like he would text me after like critiques of the match. Like he never needed to do that. Like that's just who he is, man. He loves wrestling. Has probably the best wrestling mind I've ever been around, and wrestling needs more Brian Johnson.
Totally agree. Selfless guys who doesn't do, like he's doing so much when he hits the curtain that the fans are seeing, but behind that curtain, man, he is.
And I mean, in front of
making everyone making everyone around him better.
He's the best in front of the. I mean, you want to talk about people that hate people. People hate him. Like, he's unbelievable.
I fucked up when he first got to a show one time because I haven't been at a wrestling show like at this point in time like in 5 or 6 months, and I was Jones and I missed all my friends. I missed all you guys. I was like hugging everybody, and like the doors weren't even open yet. But there was a handful of people that he doesn't know, and I was like, "Yo, man, I miss you so much." I went to give a bump, and he just, and he walked to the back, and then I walk in the back, goes, "Yo, you know what?" I'm like, "I know, that was my bad. I should have never even approached you." And then in the back, the hug, the whole nine, but like he takes it so serious.
And it's refreshing to see, man, and it's a testament to why he is as good as he is.
You know who? There's 2 people right now in PPW, and I think him coming back, and him coming back and being in the locker room Mecca is going to bring more out of this kid that I think is insanely talented. Clutch Adams and Mecca Johnson in the same room, feeding off each other, is magic.
So Clutch is another one. He was, when I first got to the Monster Factory, he was like the guy. Like, he was the champ. He was having all the main event matches. Like, so it's cool to kind of be around him again because he's another guy like we had, that like I have a lot of history with him. It's cool to see him at PPW doing his thing like that.
Yeah, they're killing it there, man. PPW is doing really cool things and big things. So we got a couple last questions from the chat here, which I appreciate all of you guys for typing them in. If you have any more, quick get them in. We're having a blast here. If you're new to it, make sure you hit that subscribe button. We're on the quest to 1K. And if everyone's watching this, also head over to Primal Fear's YouTube channel and subscribe to that as well.
Get us to 1K.
Yeah, let's hit us both there so we can make that free YouTube money. It doesn't cost you anything to push a button, but we reap the benefits for your support. Favorite spooky wrestling character?
Man, I was hoping I wasn't going to get asked this question because it's so hard. Because like the Undertaker is just the best ever, but like
Kane's there too.
Kane, I love Bray Wyatt. I just have such a personal connection like to Bray Wyatt because like I said, like at the time when I first started like watching again, like was when he was doing his thing and like he was really who I was like, oh dude, this guy's awesome. Like this is the coolest guy I've ever seen.
I love Swamp Bray Wyatt, Fiend Bray Wyatt. He can never finish a story. Everything that was made Bray Wyatt popular, it was all fan theory because he didn't give you anything.
Yeah, it was like he was almost like too creative.
Yeah,
because like you said, like there was no kind of like end to it. But like, I mean, his that very first run of his was like I thought it was like the most captivating like TV I've ever seen. At the time, he was trying to make John Cena be the bad guy. He was giving him the chair. He was tying him up in the ropes. He put the sheet mask on him.
Only thing I hate about that is I didn't watch that when it was a thing. I had to go back and watch it later. And everyone's like, oh, it's the best storytelling. And I was like, so if John Cena hits Bray with a chair, Bray won and he breaks him, right? So he has the chair and he turns and just cracks Eric with the chair. I'm like, you still broke? You hit someone with a chair. Like, because it wasn't Bray, it was okay.
I like never am like that guy that's like, oh man, match, finishing that match, blah, blah. But Bray Wyatt should have won that match.
Yeah. That match was a lot of rest holds. I remember going back and rewatching. I was like, ooh, stylistically, they did not put it together for me, but they're both very talented.
Like, people are always like, I hear that one a lot. Like when I say to people, I'm like, man, like I really love Bray Wyatt. They're like, oh, like his wrestling. And I'm like, I don't even care about his wrestling.
He was a great character.
It was just an immediate connection. Like he could connect with anybody, man.
Yeah, I love Swamp Bray Wyatt. I love the promos. Awesome. I love that. I struggled with Fiend though. I will be honest, but as a human being, great human being.
I did like when he first came back as the talk show like host.
Yeah,
I was like, this is great.
The Funhouse stuff, the Firefly Funhouse stuff was fun. I like the Muscle Man and I
like creative, just different, goofy like stuff,
Mm-hmm. What else we got here? What mainstream promotion would best utilize your strengths right now? I think that's pretty easy, right? There's only one company that has 2 trios tag teams.
Yeah. AEW, ROH. We'd love to go back to ROH. Got some unfinished business there. But also, we don't want to rule out anything, man. TNA is on fire right now. Yeah. We got a couple friends in WWE.
MLW is doing cool stuff.
MLW is doing cool. Wrestling.
GCW.
It's really, man. The real question is, what promotion is missing out by not utilizing us?
All of them. All of you. Here you go. Would you go against the Judgment Day, given your history with Damian Priest?
Absolutely, because the last time I was in the ring with him, I think he chokeslammed me. So I got to get that back.
If you had to pick your trio that you're going against, are you picking Damian, Dom, and Finn? Or are you going Damian, Dom, Mommy? What are you going with?
Oh, I didn't know that was an option.
Of course, Mommy's an option.
Then yeah, I might have to, man. I give Rhea credit. I think she's like the best wrestler in the world right now.
Megastar.
Yeah, it's unbelievable.
Yeah,
that's
she's
like,
and now that they're kind of teasing, that Damian might, like, I think the end for the Judgment Day is, I think Judgment Day is still a thing, or maybe it disbands, but I think Damian's the next guy out. I think Damian stands on his own soon, especially with that Money in the Bank. I think everything around Judgment Day kind of crumbles. I don't think you separate Dom and Mommy. I think you turn Dom into that baby face Eddie Guerrero when he was with China type deal, and I think he will be, for how much he's over as a heel, he will be a mega baby face with him and Rhea. But if we're building up to Andrade versus Damian, give me that all day long.
And I mean, just like look at like how far they've come as a group from like where they started. People were like, "Oh, look at this stupid thing," and like now they're like the stars of WWE. The show revolves around them and the bloodline.
Yeah, I always fear in WWE because I feel like everyone has that glass ceiling, and if you're smart to the business, you can kind of see like, all right, they've probably hit their ceiling. They're not revered as a Cena. They're not revered as a Roman. They're kind of right where they're going to be. But man, when Damian Priest wrestled in Puerto Rico and how the people responded to that match with Bad Bunny, I was like, yo, I think Damian just broke his glass ceiling.
Yeah, I mean, it's like I said, anything that happens with him, like I legitimately get like chills. Like,
yeah,
I mean, that was a guy that like, you know, we used to sit in his kitchen until 4:00 in the morning after shows, like just talking about wrestling. And like, he's a guy again, like he didn't need to ever do that, but like that's how much he wanted, like cared about wrestling. Like we would have our shows and then we would go back to his house and we would just talk about the shows, like I said, until like 4:00 in the morning sometimes. Like,
so sick.
He did, yeah. I mean, dude, looking back now, like what did I do to deserve? Like I was this 20, 21-year-old kid, like sitting on this guy's couch. So, like look at him now, like you said, it's like about to become one of the biggest stars in the biggest wrestling company in the world. And like he was always never anything but like selfless with me, man, and all of us. I mean, he brought us, if you go look at his old Ring of Honor entrances, we were his extras every time. We've carried him out to the ring in like caskets. Like he brought us around and he introduced us to people. So like we were familiar when we did our Ring of Honor tryouts. Like we were, you know, Damien's, or at that time Punisher's guys, but like, so it's
he's technically like, I guess he's Primal Fear adjacent. He's like the fourth member.
We were the Pride of Anarchy.
Yeah.
When he joined, or when we joined him. He would get mad if I said that. We joined him.
we get Damien in a Primal Fear t-shirt and just put that all up. Lily said in the chat, the cat's name in The Crow is Gabriel.
Oh yeah, that is true.
There's
no is there no cat in this new movie?
Maybe the new one, maybe not.
There's a little girl. I'm pretty upset about that. I didn't know that.
I don't know if you could put a little girl on screen with what they're about to show us in that movie.
Maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, it looks pretty rough.
But I don't know. You don't see that new movie, Abigail, about the killer little girl ballerina?
No.
Oh, dude, look up.
I'd look it up.
These people kidnapped this little girl. They think it's like like a hostage thing, and they take her back, and she's a vampire. And she just like, rips apart like this. Like,
did you ever see Let Me In? Great movie.
Yeah, yep.
Good movie with Chloe. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so fun, man. All right, let's get you out of here so we don't sit here all night and keep this going. You will be back soon. I eventually want to get every member of Primal Fear on here to tell their story. That's the goal. And then I want to do a trios thing where we all kind of talk. But and then I definitely have to have you back on for episodes of Knuckle and High School Horror. We gotta lock that down. Man, you guys work so goddamn hard. And this is where I tell people, man, like a lot of people are like doing their shit on journalism and they're like, oh, well, F this guy on TV, or I don't like this guy. Bro, everyone's connected in some weird way. Everyone's friends with somebody. And that's why you're probably a lot of people don't do your podcast because you say dumb shit about their friends. But it's a testament to see that Damien was like, yeah, you said, was very influential on you guys. And there's a moment where if you look at him on the indie scene and where he's then from where he went from as like a chubby dude with black face paint to this just ripped GQ model, he took himself serious, and you can see how that rubs off on you guys, because I think Primal Fear is one of the most hardworking, determined trios team that's on the scene right now. And you guys set a bar and set a standard, but also keep yourself extremely humble, approachable, and just very giving to everybody on the scene. And I will always be a Primal Fear fan. You guys kill it. I'm proud to be in a locker room with you guys when you guys are there. Just keep doing what you're doing, and nothing but high hopes for all three of you.
I appreciate it, man. Like you said, we have high standards because we were around such high standards our entire careers, which we've been lucky enough to do. So it's kind of, like you said, do what we know how to do. And thanks again, man, for having me on. This was a ton of fun. I could have talked for another hour and a half about horror movies.
Well, I want to save it because I want you back.
Yeah,
we gotta keep them wanting more. But thank you so much. And yeah, once again, C. Henry says, great show. Thank you for sharing your story. Yeah, it means the world. Make sure you go hear his podcast on my buddy James's podcast. I will link it below as well. And also all links below for Gabriel as well as Primal Fear. Go subscribe and follow them on all social media.
We got some Wooden Maneuvers. We got some pro wrestling tees, and follow your boy on Instagram and X. And there's a True Primal Fear TikTok as well.
TikTok's where it's at right now. I mean, get it before it gets shut down.
Before it's gone. Yeah.
We'll see you guys next time on the ABJ podcast. Like I said, we'll be back on. If you enjoyed the horror movie talk, come for the debut of Not Cool in High School Horror on Thursday with Courtney Smith. Courtney is a tattoo artist, as well as she's going to be in her own horror movie coming very, very soon. Backroad Part 2. She will be here for Terrifier Part 1. We will also be covering Terrifier Part 2. And then we're also ending the month with a buddy of mine. His name's Charles Moran. He does artwork. He's a huge pro wrestling fan. You've probably seen him at every GCW show with big, thick black glasses, his hair down to his shoulders. He's in the front row every time if it's in the Northeast, screaming his head off. He loves pro wrestling, loves horror movies. He's a great artist, and he will be joining me for the last episode of the month for Not Cool in High School with Evil Dead Rises. So I'm pretty excited for that. We'll see you guys on the next one. Here's some music by the Converse Kid. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks for watching this presentation. Like, share, and subscribe for more.